Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, Mechanics of Spanish, 2nd edition by Robert Kapernick and Thelma Witt Gonzalez is an analysis of the structure of the Spanish language. The appendix presents words and word groups that are used in the Spanish language. The Mechanics of Spanish then illustrates how these words are used to form sentences. Examples begin with basic sentences and then continue by adding the new elements to demonstrate more advanced sentence constructions. Robert Kapernick was responsible for system engineering at a major government laboratory before retiring. System engineering is a discipline that uses top-down functional analyses to define system interfaces. Robert studied Spanish in Mexico and Guatemala and then applied the discipline of system engineering to Spanish language. The book is a result of that analysis. He holds master's degrees in English and management. Robert Kapernick, author of Mechanics of Spanish, is our guest on This Week in America. Robert, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
A fascinating background that went into writing the book. Let's start off very basic. Why did you decide to write the book, Mechanics of Spanish?
Yes, well, I went to Guadalajara, Mexico after retiring to study Spanish. I was in a school where they would give you a sentence with a verb in the infinitive form that had an English translation. The exercise then would be to read the Spanish sentence with the correct conjugation of the infinitive verb. The sentences got more and more complicated as we moved through the verb tenses, and I started to get confused as to what was going on within the sentence. Just how was it put together? As you mentioned, I'd been using system engineering, a system that looks at system interfaces. So I decided to apply this discipline to the Spanish language to see how words in a sentence work with one another. This book is a result of that study. I collaborated with Thelma Witt Gonzalez. She was born and educated in Mexico, where she worked as a reporter and an editor in a major newspaper, and as a professor and a director at a major university. She is licensed to teach Spanish in this country. Thelma ensured consistency of the Spanish examples used in the book with current practice in Latin America.
We're talking with Robert Kapernick, our guest on the program today, co-author of the book Mechanics of Spanish. Tell us a little bit about the book. What makes this book unique and so effective?
Well, the appendix, about 140 pages at the back of the book, describes words that are used in a sentence. There are definite and indefinite articles, subject and prepositional pronouns, and nouns that are person or non-person, feminine or masculine, that can be singular and plural. Then there are definite noun forms, nouns with definite articles, proper nouns, personal pronouns, demonstrative and possessive pronouns, and qualitative and quantitative adjectives used with definite articles. And there are indefinite noun forms, nouns without articles, indefinite pronouns, and qualitative and quantitative adjectives used without definite articles. Regular verb conjugations are given in sentences. 9 tenses in the indicative, 1 in the present, 4 in the past, and 4 in the future. There's the imperative that expresses a command, and there are 4 tenses in the subjunctive. Also discussed here are past participles that express terminated action, gerunds that express ongoing action, and adverbial forms, adverbs with one word, adverbial phrases with more than one word, and compound adverbs that have touching adverbs. Prepositions used with noun and adverbial forms are given. The 6 most used: a, para, por, de, con, en. Other prepositions with just one word, and complex prepositions that have more than one word. Finally, the appendix addresses word pronunciation, explained are rules for regular pronunciation and accent marks used with irregular pronunciation. These rules are given for words with and without touching vowels. The Mechanics of Spanish, the main text of the book, some 400 pages, uses the words in the appendix to build sentences. A sentence is viewed as subject plus verb plus complement. There are 4 complements: a direct complement, an indirect complement, a noun complement, and an adverbial complement. Sentence constructions are explained and then followed with examples. Sentences in Spanish with translation in English. The subject of a sentence is a noun form. Examples begin with transitive and intransitive verbs that are conjugated in one of 3 tenses in the indicative: present, future, and preterite. Preterite states terminated action in the past. A direct complement is a noun form used with a transitive verb. Direct complements are definite, indefinite, or reflexive. Reflexive refers to the subject or expresses interaction between parties. Definite direct complements can be replaced with a direct object pronoun and use the preposition a with person. Indirect direct complements do not use direct object pronouns, and the use of the preposition a with person depends on the complement. An indirect complement is a noun form used with both transitive and intransitive verbs. It uses the preposition a and normally includes an indirect object pronoun. An indirect complement with a transitive verb can be either non-reflexive or reflexive. Intransitive verbs do not use a direct complement or reflexive, but can be used without a complement and do use indirect complements. Given here are impersonal verbs that also do not use a direct complement. They normally refer to weather. Hace calor, it is hot. Nieva, it is snowing. Noun complements modify a noun. This complement is an adjective, a past participle, or a preposition used with a noun form or an adverb. Adverbial complements are used with conjugated verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. This complement is an adverbial form or a preposition used with a noun form or an adverb. Discussed next are infinitive verbs, subordinate clauses, and coordinate clauses. These are new noun forms and complements. An infinitive verb is a noun form that can have complements. Subordinate and coordinate clauses add a second conjugated verb to the sentence. Examples use verb tenses introduced before plus 2 new ones in the indicative, conditional and imperfect, and the first 2 of 4 in the subjunctive, present and imperfect. A subordinate clause uses conjunctions, normally K, sometimes C, relative pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs, and accented relative pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs. The verb in the subordinate clause is either subjunctive or indicative, depending on the verb in the principal clause. Infinitive verbs are used at times as an alternative to a subordinate clause. A coordinate clause is a sentence added to another sentence. The sentences are joined with a conjunction, y, o, pero, sino, ni. These conjunctions are also used here with noun forms and complements introduced earlier in the book. Finally, there are haber, ser and a star, and comparisons. Haber is used with past participle to form compound verbs. 2 tenses in the indicative, past perfect and future perfect, and 2 in the subjunctive, present perfect and past perfect. The impersonal use of haber is discussed. For example, hay agua? Is there water? Si hay? Yes, there is. Also given here are conditions with si and conjecture. Conjecture is used when the speaker is not sure about the answer to something in the present or past. Sarah and a star are auxiliary verbs used with an attribute to describe what the subject is. Sarah expresses a permanent attribute. For example, soy médico, I am a doctor. Estar expresses a transitory attribute. For example, estoy enfermo, I am sick. Attributes are complements used with transitive and intransitive verbs. Estar also uses gerund that describes ongoing action. Included here is the passive voice expressed with ser or reflexive that states what is being done without identifying the subject. Also, abstract nouns and the use of todo in the Spanish language are explained as they frequently are used with ser, as well as non-auxiliary verbs. Comparisons express equality and inequality between objects, people, and concepts. Más, menos, mejor, peor, mayor, menor, tan como, tantos como, and mismo, mismos, igual, iguales.
The book we're talking about today is Mechanics of Spanish by Robert Kapernick. You'll find all the information available on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. This is a republished book now available for sale in ebook and paperback at its lowest retail price. Available for sale at all Amazon sites, Barnes & Noble, Page Turner Press and Media Direct bookstore orders, Chapters Indigo in Canada, Waterstones in the UK, Booktopia in Australia, New Zealand, and a lot more. Again, Robert Kapernick, our guest on the program. Robert, who exactly is the book designed for, intended for?
Yes, it is a reference. Students who start Spanish later in life can use this book, while younger people tend to hear and remember the sound of a word or phrase and then begin to use it. Those who start Spanish later can find it easier to see Spanish written and explained before they start to use it. That's what I was looking for when I started. Also, younger students of Spanish who are fluent but want to improve their ability to write and use the language can consult the book in targeted areas. And teachers and all users of Spanish can use the book as a ready reference. It is rich in vocabulary. You can go to the index and pull out what you want. There are tables of prepositions, adverbs, and adverbial phrases, common constructions such as se debía, it is due to, se trata de, it deals with, se dice que, it is said that, vale la pena que, it is worthwhile that. Given are verbs with irregular conjugations, impersonal verbs used to describe weather, verbs that suggest an answer to a question and use accented relative pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs with a subordinate clause, and verbs that with a conjunction use subjunctive in a subordinate clause, and those that use indicative in a subordinate clause. Masculine versus feminine. English makes this distinction with animals and people, but all nouns in Spanish are one or the other. For example, el baile, the dance, masculine. La calle, the street, feminine. El árbol, the tree, masculine. La piel, the skin, feminine. El parabrisas, the windshield, masculine. La tos, the cough, feminine. There are 6 pages in the book on this. Then you can go to noun forms. There are nouns, abstract nouns, subject, personal, prepositional, and indefinite pronouns. And there are forms that are used both with and without a noun. This occurs with demonstrative adjectives and pronouns. Esta persona, this person. Esta, this one. It occurs with possessive adjectives and pronouns. La tía mía, the aunt of mine. La mía, mine. With indefinite articles and pronouns. Una idea, an idea. Una, one. And with indefinite adjectives and pronouns. Otra manera, another way. Otra, another. Also, a definite article with noun and noun complement can reduce to a definite article and noun complement. La blusa roja, the red blouse. La roja, the red one. Las dos niñas, the two girls. Las dos, the two. La mesa de ella, the table of hers. La de ella, the one of hers. Learn noun forms and you can plug them into a sentence as subject, direct complement, and indirect complement. Also, you can use them with a preposition as noun complement and adverbial complement. The book is a reference that can be used in many ways.
The book is Mechanics of Spanish, 2nd edition by Robert Kapernick, our guest on the program. Robert, where all is the book available? I know it's readily available, basically worldwide.
I think Page Turner would be the best place to get this book. I am working with them right now. The book is available in paperback and hardcover. So that would be my recommendation.
And you could find that at Page Turner Press and Media Direct bookstore orders. If you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, a link there, and you can link on directly to Page Turner in their bookstore and get information on the book. Robert, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program. Just a final 30 seconds or so here. How long did it take for you to put this book together? It's a very important reference book for so many people. How long did it take for you to compile this?
Yes, well, that's a good question. And, I'm an engineer. I'm not a linguist. And so when I went to Mexico and Guatemala to study Spanish, I was writing things down. And when I finally came back to this country, I had quite a bit of things that I thought might make a good book. It would help me pursue my interest in Spanish. So about 10 years ago, I started to write things down. And then I would find that I would develop some areas well and other areas weren't developed as well as they needed to be. So it took about 10 years for me to finally get the book to a point where I thought it would be a valuable reference for people who are involved in Spanish.
It is a valuable resource. It's Mechanics of Spanish, 2nd edition. Robert Kapernick is the author and our guest on the program. Again, find information at pageturner.us in their bookstore. Robert, best of luck with the book. Thank you so much for being with us on the program today. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rick.
It has been our pleasure having Robert Kapernick with us on the program, the book Mechanics of Spanish. Once again, the book's available at pageturner.us. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back on today's program right after these messages.